jail in the title. Anyway, welcome everybody to Mud Flood Was Armageddon. Mud Flood was Armageddon. By that I mean the Armageddon is over. And I also used to have a channel called Flat Earth Nation Golden Age Past because it's a flat, as you can see by the map. And the Golden Age is past. We're living in a time where they rewrote history. Randy and I have been talking about it for quite a while. And Randy, I had to miss a week, didn't get much news. Let's say I was secluded and came back, and yeah, I was expecting more of the same, but they kicked it up a notch. I mean, wait till you see some of the things from this week and last week. So how you doing? Anyway, brother Randy, good to have you. Uh,
Yeah, thanks. I might not be involved in as much stuff as far as being spontaneous like you have this past week, but yeah, I'm still here.
all right. Well, Bob Marley is chimed in, so good to see you. And I very confident in this Wi-Fi. I think we'll get something going on here. So anyway, it doesn't look at for people that will watch later, and maybe we can bring it up later. But it Randy, it doesn't look like I'll have to worry about that warrant being out against me, if from Castle Rock much longer. Because
Right.
people that have been friends of this show know I've been was driving without insurance in like 2017 or 2018. And well, they finally, I've been to court and have a date on October 12th to go back to Castle Rock, and probably, I'm able to get a license again. Doesn't mean I should get a driver's license again, or should I just jump right back into getting a driver's license again, or what, Randy?
Yeah, I'm not certain how you want to do your decision making after that's behind you, but
Yeah,
that's
I should
your
get it
call.
behind me first.
Yeah.
Well, let's jump right into the meat and potatoes of what's going on here. So I'm pretty sure I need to share the screen and show you this. Here, got one comment just yesterday from, I was looking, this is something from last week before I went to get the warrant taken care of here. Looks like Greg from Big Pig Slapper Oink Tree replied Genesis 6:9. Okay, so as if that's supposed to solve anything, Randy.
Well, I'd need to refresh my memory.
Yeah, that's Noah was a righteous man.
Okay.
Noah found favor among God, and these are the generations of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, blameless in his generation. Noah walked with God. So, like I said, I don't remember the argument, but this is an interesting verse, interesting in his generation. Enoch walked with God also. Enoch was taken by God.
Yep.
So it just comes down to, don't let me forget. I want to discuss some of the clown is Nephilim blood again, because I'm going to stick firm on this position, Randy. What's this? That anything that came off of Noah's Ark can be saved. It's human. If it has human blood in it, it can be saved. And God has paved a way, and they will be drawn to the rock of our salvation. And if they're going to be elect, adopted, called. They're going to at some point, believe that in their heart that Jesus Christ is the manifest spirit God in the flesh, and can tell their neighbor, tell their friend, Jesus Christ is God. He's alive. So, got a picture of a mummy here. I don't know if I got to share about these or not, but it's pretty interesting stuff.
Right.
Look at that. I was looking up these, all these redhead giants and stuff like that. They're from China, man. For all we know, they're all of the Asians that turned against Paul in 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 15. All Asia has turned against me. You heard about that, right, Timothy? That's what he said. And
Yeah,
so
I'm familiar with that. I think you thought maybe the tribe of Dan, was it? Or
probably, it could be. But now here's where they lived. It's like, were they? Are there Ashkenazi Jews that have red hair? I'm just talking hereditary. I'm not being wherever the sand dunes. I guess it's the triangle nose is what the Caucasoid mask is where they're saying from, because that's about the most defining feature, I guess. Besides the small forehead, boat-shaped coffin, mummified remains dressed in woolen garments. They knew a lot about making clothes, good shoes, the warp and the woof. They talk about that when they were making the tabernacle in the wilderness. Is there a better name for that, Randy, that people might recognize for, what I'm talking about? That how they had to sew it all up, and, a lot of people nowadays think it was a dome. I think it was
yep,
too.
I've heard that.
Well, look at all this stuff here. Huh. So this is what these mummies were fixated on. That and globe Earth, because here Randy, this is a shock. This is the only tribe that actually believed that water could stick on a spinning ball. I'm kidding. They didn't believe it either. What does this mean? What is all this stuff?
Yeah, I need it explained to me.
Yeah, no kidding. It's pretty serious stuff, though, right? Looks like it's
Well, it looks like there's detail in there but I'm
their
not certain.
tribes want to be a mixie better than being a pixie. Ket, that's a god, I think, maybe. Or these are all just tribes, probably different hereditary things. But anyway, they're interesting, but we got to get to the Bible eventually here. But if their clothes and their red hair, and maybe they turned against Paul, and I'm so mad at people turning against Paul. Don't even let me suspect you, you redheaded Asians. But another endoric basin and dunes, we saw that. So, God the Father sent Jesus to really, punish the whole world. But he was really mad at what the people that he called his people at one time, the ones that weren't like the Apostle Paul and James and Peter, that accepted that Jesus Christ was the substitutionary sacrifice, the substitutionary death. His blood covers our sins. What else is there in this whole world that is important? And this endoric basins, we've been talking about this for 6 years, Randy. All the water doesn't flow to the sea anymore, people. Not after Armageddon. It did when Solomon wrote it, and it's as true. It was as true then as there's nothing new under the sun. So it's a closed basin, a terminal basin, you know. It doesn't run to the ocean anymore. And wherever you see them, that's probably where some of those, some, like even Egypt was going to get punished more than some of the other countries, and Assyria. And see, here's where that's why I moved up here to get near those sand dunes. But there's endork basins where, because they spread everywhere, even down here. So even, the Aborigines in New Zealand, we can't worship their religion. They broke away. They weren't lost because nobody knew where they were. They were lost because they left the Jehovah, Yahweh, Yah, whatever you want to call Jesus Christ incarnate with your language, Buddha, if that's what they called him, because I don't think there was a 1,000-year reign after 1300s when somebody named Buddha was alive. I don't believe in those histories. So that's interesting.
Right.
Check this out. Do you see this one, Randy?
Constitutional rights. I took an oath to uphold those too. And if we ignore this growing
the governor of New Mexico,
I've said to every other New Mexican, your rights are subrogated to theirs. And they are.
Yeah, she declared an emergency and banned not just concealed carry and open carry, guns in Albuquerque. You can't carry a gun in Albuquerque legally anymore.
For 30 days, right?
That lasted 2 days before it got overruled, but she was going to use it because she declared it as a medical emergency because an epidemic of guns. So that didn't work, but they floated it out there. It's definitely on their mind.
Yeah, test the water. Yeah,
and this is an updated version of it because, here the guy is talking about it because this is a pretty good couple. This Truth Stream Media. I think most people watch them.
Who's standing up for that right? Who's standing up for that right? If this climate is so out of control, somebody should do something.
Again, this is just a weird chain of logical fallacies and failed thinking.
So he made this video a couple of days ago. His wife updated it with this.
And the Constitution and her oath, but either way, she's unfit for office.
But it was such an obvious, blatant, flagrant, egregious, insert more adjectives here, get out your thesaurus and pour them all in, overstep and abuse of power that the question has to be, why did she do it?
And I'll tell you, if you're a young person, you're not allowed to have a handgun.
Well, it's a crime already.
I got it, but we won't be able to arrest all of them. So imagine, just in a perfect world, if this was upheld, it gives all of these police officers the ability to focus on
whose perfect world is this?
I know, I got that too, man. How close are we to a perfect world? Running through these things here. What's this one? David Strauss. Boy, he's in on something. I watched something on gluten today, Randy. And then I sent you that one on the 300
feet below Maui.
300 feet below ground. Now, this is one from last week. I never got to show you, and I'm not accusing conspiracies, understanding conspiracy, the Nephilim clown guy, because I think that this clown thing, there's an angle to it, but I think they're looking at it wrong. But listen to because this guy, he considers his Jesus moment was when he stopped smoking weed, stopped taking drugs, and realized that the Nephilim was the reason that God was a genocidal maniac, was he was really saving the world from Nephilim blood. Just like Rob Skiba and Zen Garcia. So, but here's what.
It might have been more saving them from their motives rather than from their blood, but yeah, I'm just throwing that.
Yeah, and how much more proof do we need that our own hearts were desperately wicked unless God changed them and opened our eyes? And even still now, knowing what we're capable of is haunting, you know? So how can we blame the Nephilim? Like, where does it say that what did they do that was so much worse than we wouldn't do? So why are they so much more targeted out as like, oh yeah, they did this or that, what that we haven't already done? Offered our children to false gods as a society, made it legal, constitutionally protected. How are we better than Nephilim blood people? But my position is if you got off the ark, you're human. You got human blood in you. And somehow, even if they genetically messed with us and cloned us and our orphan parents or whatever, I don't care. It's written on whatever tells me in my spirit is, I'm saved and I know I'm pretty comforted in that. We're human. Jesus died for our sins. Man, but check this out, Randy. This is what they teach in those occult, you know, without Christian when they're doing ayahuasca and LSD without knowing anything about Jesus. They actually encourage, he says about Jeremiah, I think I have it set up here.
Your souls, in that ye provoke me to wrath with the works of your hands, burning incense unto other gods in the land of Egypt. Then all the men that knew that their wives had burned incense unto other gods, and all the women that stood by, a great multitude, even all the people that dwelt in the land of Egypt, answered Jeremiah, saying, as for the word which thou hast spoken unto us in the name of the Lord, we will not hearken unto thee, but we will certainly do whatever thing goeth forth out of our own mouth, to burn incense unto the Queen of heaven, and to pour drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings and our princes in the city of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem. For then we had plenty of victuals, and were well, and saw no evil. And so they're saying under this polytheistic, when both the goddess and the god were worshipped alongside, things were really great. And that was the peak of their kingdom and the peak of their wealth. And now this monotheism's come along. That's when it all started falling apart. And when you think about the imbalance.
Did you hear that, Randy? When monotheism came apart, everything started falling apart.
Yeah,
I can't.
I wouldn't argue against that statement.
Welcome, Luther. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, that to me, that's about as dragging the bottom as you can get. Encouraging. You know, saying, yeah, those people had every right to doubt Jeremiah and God. Things were good. They're saying things were good when they worshiped ISIS, that whole Trinity thing, and they wanted to keep doing it. So let's hear a little bit more, and then we'll move it on.
Balance that monotheism has caused in our culture with women. It's nice that there's so many women in this course because it's women that have really suffered tremendously due to this idea of male monotheism and the goddess worship, which goddesses like Asherah and Asherah developed out of. They come from a much more ancient line of worship. There was a whole period of history prior to this rise of monotheism and prior to rise of even polytheism that are known as the age of the Great Mother. And Sula Bennett believed this is when the mass use of hashish for ceremonial purposes really began, was in the age of the Great Mother. And so...
I don't know, man. Hi, Marcella. Welcome. Buenos dias. I don't have a problem with monotheism or the God the Father, who identifies in the Bible as a father. I wish people would respect my, religion and let me worship God the Father. But I understand that this whole, but it's the culture today. They want female deities. They want that inclusion. They want, God, whether he or she or Alcoholics Anonymous, the God of your choice, which sounds a lot like the Illuminati to me. Go ahead, Randy.
Well, not to argue, be the devil's advocate, but what we witness here, with the woman carrying the child, there's that's significant on how procreation, happens for families to grow. It isn't going to happen without the other gender, from the male
Yeah.
point of view. So I'm still, yeah,
In the
believe that,
biblical point of
there's only
view,
two genders,
right?
and it requires both. And the female is the one that, carries the child,
And
but
raises because the child is helpless, not only in the womb, but for the first year more. I mean, and during a lot of women, they need help during childbirth. And, this is humans should be symbiotic. And it's hard enough battling the eugenics movement and train up your horses like you would your slaves, and breed your family strong, and everything like that. When it's kind of in the Bible that they do that, raise
right.
your,
And then as an infant, what the first thing, that you live off from is the milk from the mother, typically. So yeah, that's nothing new
and
neither.
spiritually, when we grow up, there was a time when both of us thought as young men, and now it's time to move on. So that's where we're at. I was myself, I was simply amazed that this guy was like into cannabis, saying he's into LSD and everything else, and then going like, and that's why I hate the Bible, man. Who does that really? Unless they're like a paid CIA person or something, That's my opinion. So, and again, they don't know anything about why they were making that, were they worshiping them or
That's the
whatever.
story of the canon references. But now
It's an easy way to, these rocks practically carve themselves. Let's see what he's talking about. One more minute
the way
here.
the cannabis is still prepared today in India for bong, and here's the Lord Shiva, the oldest continually worshipped god on earth, preparing bong. He's crushing it with a rock on there, and then making the green liquid after sifting it, And this use was also
Okay. Set your intent. That's my, do your thing. So here's the day year principle. I was looking at that. That's good. We'll have that up. What's this? Oh, this was a movie I saw. Colonel Effingham's Raid. Effingham. This was one of the top 10 money makers of the 1940s or something like that, about the Cracker Party, a novel on the Cracker Party and the political corruption of Richmond County, Georgia. And in 1946, they were still having people after the war. And when I watched this, call out the National Guard, works progress, it was all about save the Confederacy's monuments. Hopefully this won't take too long to load. So far about this Wi-Fi, the Lord has blessed at least. But his raid, it's all about, and this, I think they cover up a lot of old movies. Oh man. man, I had no idea this was going to be it. But the park that they're trying to save is something that has 10 statues to Confederate generals. It's one of the only town that Sherman didn't destroy, and they still, the way they, it sounds, like Antifa, but the way they represent blacks in this movie, it just is, it was a different world. That's my position.
Say, maybe this isn't going to be such a phony war after all. Give that an 8-column banner, Pete. Nazis sweep through Norway. You got a cigarette, Al? Thanks.
What about his honor's tribute to the lost cause?
Oh, yes. We mustn't
There's
let
the
the war
lost
interfere with
cause.
anything big like that.
Beat that, it's locked. It's tighter than
Well, that's the trouble with the world today. No faith in human nature.
So anyway, this girl's related to Effingham, and they have to get the park. We got a little bit of action here. I wanted to show the park. But anyway, there's so many Confederate statues all over this country, and it was all done between like 1890 and the start of World War I. We're just going to drop in on this for a few more minutes. How much time do you have, Randy? You got a little bit of time?
About a half hour yet.
Big gun.
Well, I can't go right now. I have to write a story.
Well, I'll go see him myself.
Mr. Holtz isn't here. He had to go to Atlanta for the day.
Well, surely there's a second in command.
No, Mr. Holtz is the man you have to see. There's no hurry. Next time you're in town, why don't you stop by and have a chat with him?
Yes, I'm sure he'll be glad to do everything he can.
It isn't a question of doing everything he can. A newspaper's run for the good of the community, isn't it?
Well,
Isn't it?
Exactly. Well, and on, my boy. Good day, LSO.
then Cousin Willie struck. It was exactly as if he'd hurled the custard pie at the established government.
Yeah, they called it the Confederate Monument Square. So, it was a different world, and they used the propaganda then. So something led me to look up the law of belligerent occupation in the American courts from 1952. Another one from before really the Nazis took over, when they got NASA and Google and approval to say, look, we're here. It's me, Warner von Braun. I'm on your team now. And the people that used to hate the famous basketball player, now they love him because he's on their team and they're winning championships, So anyway, there's some belligerent occupation here. I think I was, this is when I was thinking about fighting the warrant, before, because I'm trying to get my warrant cleared up. That's where I was for a week, trying to get my warrant cleared up. So now I'm going to go back there on October 12th and get that taken care of. But I mean, this sure, they had rules about military occupation, and the United States broke every single one of them. There's no law we didn't break. It's sad, but it's true. And as I read this, I just said, it's too much, and they probably have to already know it, and they're just not going to do it. They don't care, but
and they continue to at least attempt it if they're not breaking it. With the Constitution, the United States Constitution, the amount of laws on the books that are unconstitutional is
look at Berkheimer Military and Martial Law, 3rd edition, Chapter 3, 1944. There's a lot of 33s in this, but martial law, I mean, it's here, Randy. It's 9/11. Goodbye posse comitatus, where there was any individual actions people could take, and hello, Patriot Act. We'll define patriot as we go.
Oh yeah.
So they have supposed to have these laws of war, but they're just international laws. I've gone over these before: war, jus ad bellum, de facto laws. But based on everything I can see with treaties and everything, like the people that turned against Paul, the founders of this country and their treatment of the kingdoms and the royalties and the cities that they occupied when they kicked them out, I don't know if there's ever been a more despicable group of, whoever wants to define themselves as, the descendants of the Mayflower or the people defending the lost cause of this is our great country. I wish I could be back to 1776 again when they didn't know, when they, still thought we were friendly and could, sign all those treaties. It was all crazy. And here, look at even Wikipedia is given Deuteronomy, offer conditional peace if you lay siege. Say, look, you can pay us, or we're going to do you in. And we didn't do any of that. That has to be Satan loose. That's Satan loose territory, Randy. What'd you think of all this? Huh? Crazy, right? Did you check out any of the Black Rock symbolism?
Not so much. No.
Once again, with the Truth Stream Media, a couple I think does some really good work. Wish they were, golden age past kind of theology, but in the meantime, they're kicking it out.
It was a water faucet in the desert with a single drop of water coming out because it's so dry out there. And that drop of water is a light bulb of technology in the desert. So the new green, the new fertility, the new life in the wastelands of
That's
the desert
2012.
is basically themed around the new digital age that is emerging,
And it's tech bros, and everyone makes fun of the tech bros who go to Burning Man. But if you think about it on a symbolic level and the bringing about of this new and working with the Ukrainian military.
So Ukrainian military paid for one of their deputy ministers to go to Burning Man, set up a burning thing, and somehow maybe they planned the storm, but when it was delayed, it was finally burned on a day that coincided with some treaty that was broken between Ukraine, and now Ukraine's like a phoenix rising. Do you have any comments or anything, Randy? Anything you want to add?
It sounds like interesting facts.
Check this out.
Since, I guess, it's been years. I think I found stuff going back to 2014, but he was a volunteer and a journalist, and he started this Come Back Alive Foundation that actually helps train people to defuse mines, and they do all kinds of stuff with this military.
But they've also been like journalist propaganda. They've been involved with documenting what's happening over there and reporting it to CNN of all organizations and feeding the Western propaganda system.
But they also support the defense forces of Ukraine with optics, communications equipment, copters. This is a charity that specializes in funneling grenade launchers, mortars, drones, etc. into the war zone. And this year, Deputy Defense Minister who started that foundation is going to Burning Man and sending out messages like this: Ukraine at Burning Man 23, birth through the fire. Okay. And he was there conducting a live broadcast of this installation being burned.
Isn't that crazy, Randy? He was there. That's what, the Ukraine war, it's hot topic. But they got time for this guy to fly over to Burning Man. in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And look at, maybe it looks like a phoenix to you. It doesn't look like a phoenix to me. So I don't know.
So apparently them fires don't burn quite as hot as some of them like in California or Hawaii and other areas. But
These are planned fires, Randy. They're not going to melt your car wheels. These are natural fires. These are not the type of fires that will bring down Building 7.
It's true to an extent in every war. It's never been more true that the public has no idea what's really going on the ground. And the media
I believe that.
such a distorted tool of skewing the truth into the public mind.
In the West, we have no realization of what's really going on because there's been no
That's Oliver
military
Stone.
honesty. It's a completely corrupt process.
Power structure, it's obviously important to this power structure on a level that the average person is just ignorant of. Because the symbolism is so blatant this year. It's so over the top. On the CNN article, they go on to say the fire, the cleansing, the forging, the seeing there was something inside that's not just complete collapse resonated very deeply with people, that it was extremely emotional, and that this is a symbol of defiance. And it says, for the opening days of Burning Man, which began Sunday, burners were left guessing what might be hidden in the mysterious box. The wooden structure itself held symbolic meaning. So not just even the symbol of the phoenix, but the box itself was also symbolic, designed to echo the casings that have been erected around public monuments in towns and cities. They were going to use a smoke machine to continue to blow smoke through the phoenix's head, while a fire effect will be projected onto its body repeatedly. So it's continually burning. It's an eternal flame while it's being burned. Except the very next day is when all of this rain came. And the rains came. Unprecedented amount of rain came. So what you have here on a symbolic level is this union of opposites going on. You have fire,
I think this is
and water.
a couple important minutes.
In the thing that actually occurred, it's symbolizing this rebirth through this fire of this war. But then you have the death and rebirth of fire and water. The rebirth itself symbolizing a phoenix. Symbolically associated with transformation and rebirth. You can't just put seeds in soil, you have to water those seeds to get them to grow. Symbolism is all over this entire event now, and it's actually just all over the place everywhere if you really look. It's an alchemical formula for and rebirth. And you will typically see this
the video's breaking up, or are you froze on your end? Okay. No. I think Alan is frozen. Maybe he's showing something that, yeah, he went black. So he'll have to restart, reboot. He should be back in a minute or so. Oh, so you're here? Okay, now. Well, it looks like this show is over. But thanks for your patience and the time you've taken. It's a flat Earth nation.